Texting your ex can feel impossible, but it's also crucial if you want to get them back. But don't worry, I'm here to help. And today in this video, we'll talk about how to craft a text that your ex is going to respond to. One that will actually start a conversation. And we'll also go over some general advice about how to text your ex so that you don't scare them off and instead draw them in and actually make them chase after you. Now, the truth is that texting it's just another form of communication. And if you can communicate with your ex, then you can win them back in just about any situation. I, of course, am Brad Browning. I've helped thousands of people around the world reconnect with their exes through my one-on-one coaching, my best-selling program, The X Factor 2.0, and of course, my videos right here on YouTube. And I can help you too, so please like this video and subscribe if you want your ex back. Now, before we start texting, we really need to establish some basic ground rules. Because, when your ex is involved, so are your emotions, and that can easily cause a problem. Which brings me to my first piece of advice here. Number one, play it cool. Now, this is the most simple piece of advice I can give you, but it can also be, one of the most difficult to actually put into practice. Because as I said, emotions are running high, and that makes it easy to get caught up in the excitement, the anticipation, the sadness, the resentment, whatever, and just let your feelings dictate your actions. So try to calm yourself down and take a breath before sending a text to your ex. It will make a huge difference in how you talk to them. And, don't text them back the second that they send you a message. You don't want to give them the impression that you're glued to your phone. In fact, you really should do your best not to be glued to your phone during this period. You'd do much better to spend your time in real life, connecting with the people around you, but that's a whole other video to itself. Now, I know that you can't just, shut off your emotions at will, so your best bet is to get ahead of them so they don't become a problem. So for example, if you know that drinking lowers your inhibitions and can cause you to reach out to your ex when you know you shouldn't, then you obviously need to limit your alcohol content. And if you know that looking at old photos makes you nostalgic, then just put them away somewhere, where you can't easily access them. If watching, romantic comedies makes you miss your ex, then don't watch them. You get the idea. Really, right now is as much about knowing when to reach out as it is knowing the right thing to say. And number two, make it personal. If you're looking for what to say to attract your ex back to you, the truth is that you know better than anyone else. Because really, you know your ex. You know what they like, what they don't like, and how to talk to them. So even though you've taken a step backwards in your relationship, and at times they may feel like a total stranger, they really are still that person that you care about, and you're still the same person that they love. So draw on all the knowledge that you have about them. Are they close to their family? Ask them how their parents are doing. Maybe they're a big sports fan. Ask them about the game yesterday. Maybe they're in the middle of a huge project. Ask them how it's coming along. Now, this works for obvious reasons. People love to talk about themselves. And of course, it's flattering when somebody remembers details about your life. And less obvious, when you're speaking over text, concrete conversations like this are so much easier than more emotional, nuanced ones. The big issue with text is that it's sometimes really difficult to judge someone's tone. So an innocent question, might come across as an attack. A stray period might be seen as a sign of anger. And sometimes, a joke could just be completely lost. So focus on facts rather than feelings here. I definitely don't recommend you send, long rambling texts to your ex, but it is better to say more if you're worried that a text might be read the wrong way. Being clear is always the best idea. And number three, accept the new status quo. So here's what makes texting your ex so difficult. You developed a connection with this person, a certain way of being with them, and a level of comfort and trust. Then the breakup obviously disrupted this all in a major way. And now, it feels like you can't access that dynamic anymore. You can't joke around and be comfortable with them in the same way because you're always wondering, what are they thinking? Do they like me? You're overanalyzing every little thing that they say and trying to figure out the perfect response to unlock that connection that you had with them. Now, if this actually resonates with you, then you need to change your approach right now. You need to accept that the deeper connection you had with your ex is going to be out of reach for you, at least for now. The breakup happened and you're living with the consequences. Now, this, of course, doesn't mean that you can't get them back. You most likely can if you're able to stick to the plan. It just means that you have to accept the new reality. So with that in mind, you need to lock in on your goal here. You're not trying to get love and validation from your ex. You're not trying to forget for a moment that you're no longer together. Your goal is to get them back and to create a new relationship that lasts. So don't go for short-term gains at the expense of your larger goal. For example, I've seen plenty of clients reach out to their ex, playing the whole, do you love me, do you miss me game, just to make themselves feel better. Now, this may feel nice for a moment, but it'll often scare your ex away because it's too intimate at a time when your ex needs space. So in general, being needy, overly flirty, and trying to draw on that closeness that you've lost is not going to get you the result that you want when you're texting your ex, at least early on. So instead, take my next piece of advice, number 4, treat it like early dating. I like to think of trying to win back your ex the way I do, dating, because it really is basically the same thing. You've got this person who you're interested in, who you want to win over and make like you. So you want to gauge their level of interest, match their level of investment, and slowly get closer to them as you get to know them better. Now, you may think that you don't have to get to know them, but that's, often actually not true. Just because you already know them well doesn't mean that you can't still get to know them even better. But there are always new things to learn about another person, even if you've been together for years. So once you do start reconnecting on a deeper level, start to ask questions that you normally wouldn't and see what you can actually learn about one another. But you should know that there is one major difference compared to dating somebody new. You two have all this baggage associated with the breakup. And this may stop you from being the same, flirty, eager to please version of yourself that you might be early on in dating a new person. And that's fine. You're right to be cautious at this time. Just don't engage with the baggage and the drama unless absolutely necessary. Really, there's no reason to bring up the past. All you're going to do is remind them of the breakup and start another argument. So with that in mind, you need to handle this the way you would early dating. Don't be too eager, but be interested. Be agreeable, but don't be a doormat. Basically, everything you know about dating is going to be applicable here, so whenever you're wondering what to do next, draw on that knowledge. And yes, this does include playing some games. Don't be afraid to leave them on red for a few hours. Try to tease them and use innuendos. And definitely don't stretch out the conversation too much. Know when you should cut things off. And if you can't seem to make this work, then you need to do the following, which is number 5, change your mindset. I think a lot of times a mindset shift is so important at this stage of things. Instead of obsessing over getting your ex to like you, you need to ask yourself, do I really want them in my life? What do they bring to the table? Because, as much as it might hurt to hear it, your ex is thinking this way right now too. So by adopting this mindset, you start to, even the playing field a little bit. Even if you act in much the same way as you have been, if you can maintain this mindset, it's going to do so much for your stress level and your level of attachment to this person. It'll cause you to keep a little distance from your ex, which is exactly what you want right now. So when you do get a text from them, instead of asking, what's the perfect response that will make them laugh? Think to yourself, what are they saying to me? What does this say about them and how we align as people? Are we compatible? It takes a little while, but once you get into this mindset, it can really help you clarify your priorities and stop putting your ex on such a pedestal. Remember, they're just another person, and that means that they have their own issues and their own red flags. And speaking of you and your ex's feelings, don't you wish you had a way that you could see inside their head and get an understanding about how they feel about you right now? Well, the next best thing is to go to breakupbrad.com/quiz after this video is over and take my free quiz to find out your chances of ever getting your ex back. I created the quiz using all of my knowledge from almost 15 years as a breakup coach, and the quiz will give you a score out of 100 representing how likely it'll be for you to reconnect with your ex. Again, take it for free after the video at breakupbrad.com/quiz. Now, let's get back into it with number 6, be mysterious. I always say that you need to give your ex space to think and wonder about what you're up to, even when you're trying to reconnect with them. So with that in mind, you don't want to put your cards on the table right away. So don't text them, a huge paragraph about your life since the breakup. Don't text them, updates on your day as it happens. Don't give them an itemized schedule for your weekend. If they ask how you're doing, don't go into extreme detail when they're just looking for, good you. Remember, though they used to be someone that you'd tell everything to, right now they're not. And since you don't want to, volunteer any information to your ex, you also shouldn't be probing too deeply with your own questions. So some topics to avoid over text with your ex, things like if they've been dating since the breakup, if they miss you and they're sad that you broke up, if they feel sorry for what happened, what their intentions are with you, what they're looking for, those kinds of things. Now, I'm not saying you should always keep things, surface level, but just don't jump into the deep end. You want to talk about these things when the time is right. And if you ask them over text, it's going to give your ex a very clear idea of what you want, namely them. And at this stage, you don't want them to know what you want. You want to live in that tension. So they should be asking themselves, are they interested in me or are we just catching up? This is going to be a lot more exciting and a lot less threatening for your ex. And on top of that, if you ask questions, you're probably going to have to answer them in return. All right, and on to number 7, don't obsess. Now, hopefully some of my other tips have helped you in this already, but I'll tell you something, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but if you're watching this video, then you may tend to be on the obsessive side. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm exactly the same way. And focusing all your attention on a problem is, almost always the way to solve it. But you need to know when to let things go for a bit and just live your life. The problem with texting is that it's always there. Any moment they could send you a message. Any moment you could start a conversation with them that could lead you to getting back together. And unfortunately, this can lead many people to think about their ex, what to say to them, far more than is healthy. And then, when they finally do have a conversation, they come across as overly intense because, how could they not? It's pretty hard to be chill when you've been thinking about that moment for months. So the best way to break out of this pattern is to put your focus elsewhere. I promise your ex isn't going anywhere if you don't respond to their message this exact second. So go outside, meet up with friends, pick up hobbies, travel, do whatever it takes to distract yourself. And then watch as your conversations with your ex become easier and a lot smoother. And number 8, keep it short. So this is my final piece of advice, which will help you add to the mystery and also keep your ex guessing. And that is, of course, to keep your messages short. Match your ex's energy and don't start sending essays worth of text or spamming them with your every thought. Just keep your messages short and to the point. This is obviously going to limit miscommunications and, prevent you from coming across as needy. And, limiting your ex's access to you is also going to make them want you more. Really, it works on pretty much every level. And another factor here is to, read the room and let conversations wrap up naturally. Sure, if they keep asking you questions, it's okay to keep talking. But if things get too intense or you're feeling like, you don't want to go too deep here, then just tell them you have to go. Say it's been great chatting and that you'll talk again soon, and then cut things off. I know it can feel awkward sometimes, but sometimes it's hard to tell if a conversation is over, and this is a great way to set expectations and just, take some of the pressure off the both of you. Really, at the end of the day, texting is a tool. It's there to help you feel things out and rebuild some rapport before trying to meet up in person. And that's all. So, don't get overly stressed about it. Remember that meeting in person is the goal because that's really where the magic usually happens. And with that, I'll take my own advice and I'll end this video here before I start repeating myself. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please click that like button and go to breakupbrad.com for a more in-depth tutorial video that will help you figure out your next steps to ensure you get your ex back. I'm Brad Browning, and I will see you guys next time. Best of luck.